everybody in this room should be looking into, because certainly that would propose perhaps criminal or illegal behavior if staff members were signing the President of the United States autograph without his consent.
Biden is on the record talking about issuing preemptive pardons to these people.
But was he aware of his signature being used on every single pardon? That's a question you should ask the Biden White House.
Does the White House feel the need to comply with a verbal order from this judge?
Again, as I said, all of the planes subject to the written order of this judge departed U.S. soil, U.S. territory before the judge's written order.
As White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt verbally abuses the media like it's Christmas morning, the awakened media is running away. During her latest altercation with Kaitlan Collins of CNN, Karoline dropped her most devastating truth bomb so far, leaving poor Kaitlan absolutely dumbfounded. What took place? Please don't worry, I have the receipts.
Kaitlan, first on the president's post overnight, saying that the pardons that were issued by President Biden preemptively to members of the January 6th committee, that they're now null and void. Have attorneys here at the White House told President Trump that he has the legal authority to undo a pardon simply because it was signed by AutoPen?
Immediately sets the stage for a contentious discussion by asking Karoline Leavitt to explain the legal basis for Trump's effort to undo Biden's preemptive pardons. The goal of these pardons under Trump was to shield people from prosecution, including Dr. Anthony Fauci. However, Trump claims that Fauci misled the public about the origins of COVID-19 and backed the controversial Wuhan lab. Trump asserts that because of Fauci's pandemic policies, which damaged the economy and restricted liberty, accountability is long overdue. Because of this, he declared that Fauci would face charges and that Biden's pardon was void. Now, Kaitlan's question is simple. Who gave Trump the authority to cancel Biden's pardons? Listen to Karoline Leavitt's response.
The president was begging the question that I think a lot of journalists in this room should be asking about whether or not the former president of the United States, who I think we can all finally agree was cognitively impaired. I know it took people some time to finally admit that, but we all know that to be true, as evidenced by his disastrous debate performance against President Trump during the campaign. I digress on that. But the president was raising the point that did the president even know about these pardons? Was his legal signature used without his consent or knowledge? And that's not just the president or me raising those questions, Kaitlan. According to the New York Post, there are Biden officials from the previous White House who raised those questions and wondered if the president was even consulted about his legally binding signature being signed onto documents. And so I think it's a question that everybody in this room should be looking into, because certainly that would propose perhaps criminal or illegal behavior if staff members were signing the President of the United States autograph without his consent.
In addition, Karoline Leavitt silences her opponents in a flash. While Kaitlan was busy questioning whether Trump's actions were legal, Karoline reversed the situation and asked if Biden really understood what he was signing. Biden's cognitive impairment is a catastrophe, not just a political talking point, she said categorically. If he can't even hold a conversation without babbling, how can we trust him to issue legally binding pardons? Karoline Leavitt slammed Biden's disastrous debate, which threw Democrats into panic mode and pushed them to replace him with Kamala Harris. The focus then shifted from legality to the possible criminality of White House officials who may have forced Biden to sign pardons. Leavitt even claimed some former officials doubt he signed them at all. And there's more to uncover.
Any evidence on that he wasn't aware of it?
You're a reporter, you should find it.
Kaitlan's response, that Biden had publicly discussed issuing preemptive pardons, did not sit well with Karoline. Just talking about something isn't the same as actually doing it, she told Kaitlan in a hurry. Let's be truthful. Everyone makes promises, but how many of us ever keep them? Plans change, priorities shift, and sometimes people just forget. Therefore, unless there is concrete proof that Biden personally read, understood, and signed these pardons with full comprehension, Kaitlan's case is weak. The key point is not whether Biden addressed the pardons, but rather whether he was mentally present when they were signed. In addition, his performance in the debate, his many mistakes, and the growing calls for his ouster within his own party raise a big question mark. Still trying to catch Karoline off guard, Kaitlan posed another difficult query.
The timeline of the flights. You keep talking about the judge's written order, which hit the docket Saturday night at about 7:26 p.m., but he issued a verbal order before that at about 6:45 and 6:48 p.m. based on the court hearing, a verbal order from the bench. Does the White House feel the need to comply with a verbal order from this judge?
Again, as I said, all of the planes subject to the written order of this judge departed U.S. soil, U.S. territory before the judge's written order.
But what about the verbal order, which of course carries the same legal weight as a written order, and said for the planes to turn around if they were
Well,
in the air?
there's actually questions about whether a verbal order carries the same weight as a legal order, as a written order, and our lawyers are determined to ask and answer those questions.
The interesting part starts at this point. Trump's campaign on illegal immigration resulted in many deportation planes leaving the country at certain times. However, this is the part that most people don't know about. In a desperate attempt to obtain an injunction to stop the flights, the roused left had already rushed to court. Kaitlan reported that the injunction was given verbally at 6:30 p.m., but by the time it was officially recorded at 7:40 p.m., the flights had already departed. Is Trump breaking the law? Karoline Leavitt raised a fair point. His legal team is questioning whether a spoken ruling holds the same weight as a written one. Meanwhile, the media prioritizes deportations over the fact that many illegal immigrants have criminal records. Instead of asking why dangerous criminals remain, they paint Trump as the villain for enforcing the law. Ironically, those who preach democracy break the law when it suits them.
Friday, the president suggested at length that it should be illegal to criticize judges, but he has repeatedly criticized judges who rule against him, and Elon Musk is calling for impeachment of judges who have opposed the administration. So, how are those two things not in conflict?
I have not heard the president talk about impeaching judges. I know you mentioned Mr. Musk's tweet, but I have not heard the president of the United States ask that.
The lies keep coming. Trump never said it should be illegal to criticize judges, yet the media keeps pushing this falsehood. They've twisted his words for years, but now they're outright fabricating them. Karoline Leavitt, sharp and relentless, not only exposes these lies, but dismantles the media's smear campaigns. She reveals how they've abandoned journalism for activism, spreading misinformation just to undermine Trump. If it were truly criminal to criticize judges, let's face it, half of the left's pundits would be arrested for their incessant attacks on conservative justices. So, why the double standard? Why does the left call it free speech while Trump's words are deemed derogatory? The media refuses to answer the question. Despite taking an oath to deliver the truth, they are disregarding this. Anyone remember this clip?
So the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is. The Secretary of Interior has made that the official designation in the Geographical Identification Name Server, and Apple has recognized that, Google has recognized that, pretty much every other outlet in this room has recognized that body of water as the Gulf of America, and it's very important to this administration that we get that right, not just for people here at home, but also for the rest of the world.
Karoline Leavitt never hesitates to call out the mainstream media's blatant falsehoods. She knows their tactics firsthand and isn't afraid to expose their bias. She blasted Kaitlan Collins and others for their dishonest coverage, proving the media no longer cares about facts. They manipulate reality to control the narrative. Each time Karoline exposes their lies, they lose credibility, which is why they despise her. But the American people see through the deception. And as the media keeps failing, Karoline remains a major threat to their agenda.
Karoline, I wanted to ask about this video that I saw this morning set to the tune of, I believe, Closing Time, about deportations of illegal migrants. What's the strategy behind the White House's videos they've been putting out on this, and can you kind of talk us through the thinking on these videos?
Sure. I think the White House and our entire government clearly is leaning into the message of this president. And we are unafraid to double down and to take responsibility and ownership of the serious decisions that are being made. The president was elected with an overwhelming mandate to launch the largest mass deportation campaign in American history, and that's exactly what he is.
And this is the exact reason why Trump won a landslide majority of the vote and is so popular. He made a firm pledge during his campaign. He planned to take strong steps against illegal immigrants in an attempt to reduce crime. And he's doing a terrific job of keeping his word right now. Unlike the previous administration, which secretly let millions cross the border unchecked while feeding the public false rhetoric, Trump is not here to play games. He is taking action, making tough decisions, and honoring all of his pledges to the American public. The fact that he has receipts is the worst part for his opponents. Regardless of how much the left-wing media argues, there is hard video evidence to back up Trump's actions. The numbers don't lie. Crime rates associated with illegal immigration have gone up, but the media, which claims to be concerned about safety and democracy, ignores the real problem. Trump is not only enforcing the law, but also revealing the hypocrisy of those who have been trying to erode America's borders for years. This is what terrifies the media, the establishment, and the radical
And
left.
that's exactly what he is doing. And to this very day, we are now, I think, 56 or 7 days into the administration by my count. The president still receives an overwhelming public support for the policies that he is enacting. So we are unafraid to message effectively what the president is doing on a daily basis to make our community safer. And the specific video you referenced, I think it sums up our immigration policy pretty well. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay.
Trump's strong public support has sent the establishment media into full meltdown. Despite endless hit pieces, fake scandals, and attempts to discredit him, his popularity keeps rising, driving them mad. For years, they swore to end his political career, but the people never bought their lies. Now that Trump is back, the media is desperate, realizing they've lost control of the narrative. This is their last pathetic attempt to stay relevant. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you don't want to miss out on the hottest celebrity news, make sure to subscribe to Daily Finder.